constantly pronounced it covered, and it was like he's pretty insulated from most things. But we were like, you just pronounced it covered.
Bone tomorrow never dies, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Garrett Smith.
And my name is Dan Scully. That was impressive. I liked how you
like that one.
You did a little what's it called, a hybrid,
a portmanteau.
A portmanteau. That's a great.
I literally only know that word because of Comedy Bang Bang.
Oh,
there's a character that is constantly talking about clumsy portmanteaus.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. We are joined by Ryan Silberstein of cinema76.com and F Yeah F1.
Yep.
And the Shame Files.
Yep.
And I saw it in a movie.
Yep.
Is that all of them?
Yeah, that's all of them for now.
I nailed it.
Dude,
I did that off the top of my head, man, because I listened to all those podcasts.
Listening to you increase in interest in F1 is the most joyous thing.
Yeah.
It's been a blast.
Because I don't know a lot about racing, but I had a roommate that like loved NASCAR, and every once in a while I'd watch it with him, and it was really fun. And I just didn't have the time to follow it. But like listening to you go from like, oh, I don't know much about F1 to like really enjoying it is just it's a source of joy.
Yeah.
So
I do that show with former and future movie guest Ian Kimball. So if you want to hear the two of us geek out and just generally shoot the shit when it comes to Formula One, you should definitely check that out.
It's a lot of fun.
It is fun. Yeah, and your sort of what do you call that? Like your rookie joy, your sort of discovery process and the joy you find in it is pretty delightful.
Yeah, we're very upfront about the fact that we're ignorant. We're from America, so like we have a very skewed perspective on the sport. But
that's so fun about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we're learning as we go, and that makes it even more fun.
Right on. I feel like that's probably a really good sport to. This is gonna sound so stupid. That's a really good sport to become enthused in because it's so crazy fast paced, and so to have added weight beyond just watching the already crazy insanity of it is gotta be fun.
And it's awesome because in non-pandemic years, the races are every other Sunday. They're capped at 2 hours, and they're usually in Europe or Asia. So they're at like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. So it's like perfect. I get up, I watch a 2-hour race, and then boom, I'm off to start the rest of my day. And it's like, and it's not like baseball where there's like 75 baseball games every week. There's one race. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you sit down, everybody plays at once. It's 2 hours. It's like, it's perfect. Like you can really dip in and dip out and not feel like it takes over. It's not going to take over your whole life unless you really let it.
Describing a sport as everybody plays at once is the hardest sell anyone has ever given me on sports.
That is a really good way to put it. I didn't read it as meaning what it meant. Yeah, everybody plays at once.
Yeah.
Everybody's their own team. They go, they race.
Mm-hmm.
That's
the
really
best
fun.
sell I've ever heard for a sport.
Because I'm not a big, what though? That's the one sport that I really do enjoy watching is boxing, and I think it's for that reason. Rocky obsession notwithstanding, it's because it's all on the line right there, and then we'll see in 3 months. Like you can watch, and they throw a couple undercards on there so you can make a night of it.
Yeah,
not on. So it's done.
So we're here today to do something kind of like fun and special that Ryan wanted to do, kind of like brought to me the other day. And I want to make sure we give credit where credit is due here as well, Ryan, to the podcast you pointed me to, which I've listened to like 5 episodes of in the last 2 days, by the way. You recommended me Screen Drafts just so that I could like understand the thing that you wanted to do today, which is we're going to be drafting Steven Spielberg movies today. And I was like, oh, I don't know anything about it. As you just heard me say, like, selling me on sports. I don't know anything about sports. I've never drafted. So I listened to Screen Drafts, and it is delightful. It's so fun. I listened to like 5 episodes back to back because I had such a good time listening to it. And I'm very excited to do this today. But tell our audience about this and why you wanted to draft Spielberg movies.
Yeah, so I discovered Screen Drafts only a couple months ago. It seems like it's been around for a while because some other people I listened to on other podcasts were on there. So like Griffin Newman of Blank Check. And JD Amato.
Oh my God, I got to listen to Griffin Newman.
They did a Henson draft to rank all the Henson movies. And so
I saw some chatter on Twitter about like people talking Muppets.
Yeah, and so like it's a fun concept. I love the idea of ranking, but I like that this is both cooperative and competitive at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing I like about the Screen Drafts podcast is it really changes the flavor depending on who the guests are, because usually the hosts are just officiating, and the guests are the ones actually making the list. And so like when you have people like Joanna Robinson and Katie Rich, who are both work together at Vanity Fair, and they work together every day, and then they're thrown into the gauntlet of this draft, and just seeing those relationships play out on top of actually talking about all these cool movies, and the topics they pick are really interesting. Their theme song also kicks ass.
Right on.
pretty
I
good.
love a good theme song.
So I definitely recommend it. And then on top of that, so I got this like really cool, because we're on YouTube, I can show it. I got this really cool Steven Spielberg box set back over the winter, which has all of his like Universal Pictures movies in it. So it has Duel, Sugarland Express, Jaws, 1941, E.T., Always, and the first two Jurassic Park movies.
Oh, yeah.
That's incredible. I've actually not seen many of those.
That's a bunch of stuff I've not seen. Yeah.
And that's why I picked up this
Sugarland
box
so
set.
bad.
So once I got this box set, and then the pandemic hit, because I like bought it, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll get to these eventually. I'll like pick them off here and there. And then when the pandemic hit, I was like, okay, I'm going through the Godzilla Criterion box set. I'm going through the Spielberg box set. Like I'm running through all these things that I have on my shelf. And then I looked on Letterboxd and I was like, oh, okay. If I finish this box set and I watch Empire of the Sun and I watch The Color Purple and I watch AI, I'll actually have seen all the Spielberg movies that I haven't seen. So now I've completed the Spielberg filmography. And so I wanted to bring to you guys to celebrate by talking about our favorite movies of his.
Well, now I wish you could do most of the drafting, because I totaled it myself. I've seen like 23 of his movies, I think. But if I'm being like really honest with myself, there's at least 3 of those that like I definitely saw when I was younger, but I really don't remember that much, you know?
Yeah, the one I want to revisit.
I'm in the exact same boat.
Yeah, the one I want to revisit that I know I've seen is Amistad, because I definitely have seen it. I probably have not seen it in 15 years or more. So like that one I want to revisit before I feel like I can canonize my official ranking as like I've seen these all as an adult. But like I hadn't seen E.T. since I was a kid.
That's one I have not seen since I was a kid.
I just revisited E.T. Just a few weeks ago, due to the kind sharing of a digital download code, and that movie, I have such conflicted feelings about the movie because it is undoubtedly a masterpiece, but man, that hurts to watch. It hurts to watch. Like it just makes me feel so goddamn hard. It's insane.
Well, let's see. We'll see. Maybe we'll end up
see.
talking
I
about
shouldn't be getting into defending now.
It's all right. It's all right. But yeah, so that I'm excited to do this because I actually have seen more probably Steven Spielberg movies than I've seen most other filmographies. You know what I mean? Like I've seen a very high percentage of Spielberg movies. There's some significant ones I've not seen, but I've seen a lot of them, and so I have like. But my thing is like I have some definitive, just sort of like I really like these Spielberg movies, and so I'm very interested to see like how this list sort of plays out. There's like going to be a couple key things that I feel like I'm going to have to try and like worm in there and see how that happens.
Yeah, and then on Screen Drafts when they have 2 guests, they usually are doing a top 7.
Yes.
But when Gary and I were talking, we wanted to expand it to 11. One, because I think those 11 to 6 spots are probably more interesting than the top 5. And so, in addition to having a third person, I thought, I want to talk about the almost, top 5 Spielberg. Like we all know what the great ones are, but what are our kind of our more personal choices are maybe going to stick out more.
Yeah. And so we've got, how do we want to explain this real quick? It's, what do they say? It's a snaking draft, right?
Yep.
And so what we're going to do really quick here is I've got the IMDb Top 250 open. I'm going to use this random number generator. And we're going to look at movie number 14, which is Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Okay, I am not going to look it up yet. I need to wait until we all make guesses at its Rotten Tomatoes score.
Now, are we going closest without going over, or just closest?
I think just closest makes
just
the
closest.
most sense.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay,
all right.
That works for me.
Look, I'm happy to start unless somebody else feels like they really want to.
You can go start.
I'll drop a 98% on.
I'm gonna.
I was gonna do the same, but I can't. So, Ryan, you go, and then I'll just take the hit.
Yeah, I'll take the 97.
And for the sake of making things interesting, I'm just gonna say 92.
All right, here we go.
I wanted 98 so bad, you
Me
fuck.
too.
This is gonna get acrimonious tonight.
Oh my God, it's a 94% on the thermometer, and so
Thermometer?
yeah, isn't that what it is? Tomato
meter?
meter? Oh,
Tomato.
the thermometer. It's a thermometer.
You sound
You
like
say
a guy from
tomato
like New
meter, I
York
say
talking about.
thermometer.
I put a thermometer in his mouth.
Yeah,
Check his
yeah.
temperature.
Wow, yeah. Okay, so wait, doesn't that mean Dan's the closest actually?
Yeah, Dan's the closest.
Okay, so Dan,
Holla.
you have your choice for the draft. You can draft either movies 11, 10, 6, and 3, 9, 8, 5, and 2,
11.
or 7, 4, and 1, and you would get 2 vetoes if you chose that one.
Let me look at my list and put that out. So 11,
10,
10,
6, and 3.
6, and 3. Okay, no, okay.
9,
And
8,
then it's 9, 8,
5, and 2.
5, and 2. Ooh, that's a chance to get the 2.
And,
Okay.
And then 7, 4, and 1. And that gets you the number 1 draft spot and 2 vetoes. And keep in mind, other people might end up putting your movies on the list anyway.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. I am gonna take the middle one.
The middle one, 9, 8, 5,
I'll let
2.
you guys
All right.
the goods on that
And
number
well,
one.
and then Ryan, you went under me, right? So you're next
Yep.
closest. So what do you want?
I'll take the 10, 11. What's it? 10, 11.
You guys get to pick all the movies. All right.
See,
I'll
that's
take it.
the thing.
fine.
I'm just worried that
I
as my
get it.
list dwindles, I'm gonna be like, well, now I just haven't seen anything, and I
I
might
get it. That was
conk
going
out.
to be my strategy too. You guys all punked me into taking the number 1 and the number 1
But here's
slot.
the thing: I'm gonna tell you straight up front. Unless there's something egregious on here, I will hold on to my veto and
Yeah.
fuck this whole thing.
Yeah.
So I am completely on board with that happening.
All right. All right.
Um,
All right.
Well,
and
you-
then who?
The trick is I care a lot, but I don't care because they're all good.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So it could be worth it just to get my baby in there.
All right.
And who's keeping track of the list as we go, so we don't forget?
I've got everything written down here already.
Garrett's always good for this. He's got spreadsheets.
I'm tracking it. I'm ready to go.
Awesome.
He's like, I want to thank my assistant. And there's like someone over there. Like,
It's a hamster.
Yeah.
yeah, just spinning the wheel.
All right. Yeah. What even
Somehow
are the ones
there's
that
like
I-
a wire connected to
Oh,
a printer,
interesting.
and as he's spinning
Wow.
the wheel,
Wait,
just
guys,
words
actually-
are coming out.
Just so you guys know, the numbers the movies I preset for the numbers that I got are pretty dope movies. Like I got pretty interesting picks for these
Dude,
slots.
he's dope. So wait, what do I have again? Let me just.
you have Dan has the middle slot, right?
I got the middle slot.
Yeah, 9, 8, 5, and 2.
9, 8, 5, and 2. Okay.
All right. And I have 11, 10,
6 and 3.
6, and 3. Okay.
And I've got 7, 4, and 1. Everybody feel good about that?
Yeah.
I feel
Alright.
pretty good about that.
Yeah.
Fuck
and
though,
then,
you know what? I have to like
yeah,
really
you're-
look at my list.
It's
You're-
gonna
you're-
shift like as we go. As soon as there's a movie on there, like the whole
Yeah.
thing's gonna start to shift because, yeah.
So, and that means you're gonna start us off, Ryan, with a number 11 pick.
All right. So for number 11, I'm gonna pick something that may be unexpected to people out there because I feel like a lot of people have not seen this movie. My number 11 pick is The Adventures of Tintin.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Have
That's
you
a
guys
good
seen-
movie.
Am
have
I
you
gonna
guys
have
seen
to
this?
veto the number 11 pick? Go ahead, explain your pick.
So it's Spielberg's to date only truly animated film, which makes it kind of unique in his thing. I love the Tintin stories, so I was like in the bag for it already. But it is, written by Edgar Wright and Joe Cornish. It has an entire action sequence that, because it's animated, it is all one take. And it
Sequence
is
incredible.
it's like an Indiana Jones Rube Goldberg machine like of an action sequence, and that alone I think earns it a spot on this list. But the visuals, like seeing Spielberg be able to let loose, and there's a scene where Captain Haddock is telling a story about his ancestors on a pirate ship, but they're in the desert, and it's like blending the pirate ship sailing through the dunes as he's telling the story. And, like that's stuff that doesn't really work so well in a live action movie, but in animation, it just really fits. And seeing Spielberg do something different is just really cool. And it's a movie I just love. So
Here's the thing. So you gave me 2 vetoes, and it just makes me feel like I've got one to fucking burn here. And
Wait, you know what? I'm gonna make a case for it because this was one that I absolutely 100% didn't even consider.
Yeah.
Did not even consider. I mean, like it was on the I read it. I didn't forget about it. I didn't even consider it for my list. Just blew by it. But this is like truly an awesome movie in the sense of movies being awesome. I remember taking the bus to KOP from Manayunk just to see it in IMAX 3D and being really, really pleased with that experience. It's like, that's the best Tintin movie there's ever gonna be.
Here's the thing. I agree with everything you guys are saying. I personally did not really like this movie. Like it was like one of those movies where it was like, man, there's all these great things about it, and it's still like it's not working for me. And it feels like one of the Spielberg movies that I don't want on this list. However, even with this extra veto to burn, I fear that burning a veto on this only means it will get higher on this list, and I cannot have that. So I will let this stand, and this will be our number 11 movie.
So I will say, that movie being at number 11 on this list is why I chose this drafting slot because
right on.
Because I was like, I have 2 in a row, so like, okay, it'll be 10, it'll be 11, or it'll be 10.
I knew it. I knew if I dropped it on it, it would just climb
higher. You guys
higher,
are
and
scaring the hell out of me because I didn't even fully understand like how this draft worked until about 5 minutes before we pressed record. So like the list that I have, I just kind of ranked my top 11. Yeah. So now I'm gonna have to start thinking about strategy, but. Okay.
Yeah, but you got time because Ryan's got to throw another movie at us, and that gives you.
He's
got
to throw another movie at us.
Yeah.
I got to figure out what I want to make a case for here.
Yeah. Number 11, Adventures of Tintin. I'm happy to have it. It's not about. I agree with you guys. It is an awesome movie, and it is fun to watch him let loose in animation. I wish I liked it more.
I get that. I think that's totally fair. So
Daniel Craig was the pirate. Oh man.
He was the pirate.
He did a great performance with that. Yeah.
All right. So for my number 10 pick, I'm going to throw out Minority Report.
Ooh, baby.
So Minority Report, it's his 2002 movie. It's, it felt very post 9/11 at the time when it came out, when I saw it in theaters. And it's a movie that I actually dismissed initially. Like, I enjoyed it, but I was like, there's so many twists in this movie that now that I know where the story is going, I'm not going to enjoy it. And then a couple of years ago, I was like, oh man, I haven't seen Minority Report in a while. Like, I kind of forget what all the twists are. And then watching it again, I was like, that was really dumb that I thought the twists were the thing that made this movie cool. There's so much in this movie. Like, it's just, I mean, I'm a big sucker for Tom Cruise. But the sequence where he has the eye surgery and it has like the little spider bots.
Yeah.
And the way the camera pans like over the dividers in that house, and you're seeing things from all different angles, and it's all kind of done in the frame. Absolutely incredible. And like I said, the story is riveting. Colin Farrell is in there, and
that's
he's
like
great.
That's like one of like 5 great standout sequences in that movie. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like, we did an episode
I think
for
of
that.
Those elevator cars going up and down, him jumping and 3-point landing. Ooh, baby. Yeah, when we did that episode, that was the first time I had seen it since the theater, if I remember correctly.
I think me too.
But what was weird is I remember thinking how the effects kind of looked a little bit dated, but in one of those good ways. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, that is a really great movie. I also didn't consider it, but I don't want to live in a world where I fight you on Minority Report being included. Because that movie rocks.
And every time I get a targeted ad on Instagram, I think about this movie.
Yeah.
There are pieces of our present that are predicted in this movie extremely accurately.
Yeah, that's true.
Listen, it would have been higher on my own list, so I am not. But I actually think this is probably the spot this movie belongs. On my personal list, it's higher, but I think this is actually probably pretty accurate. I really like this for number 10. This is great.
Awesome.
I'm into this. Let's do it. Yeah, I just I'm just gonna echo you guys again. This movie kicks ass, and yeah, I think it's better than it gets credit for. It's one of the movies that I think gets a little bit. This is part of the, I don't know, almost like lost years. I feel like for Spielberg that are some of my favorite like Spielberg years.
Yeah,
but,
it feels like his shift between like he's merging. I feel like this is where he's merging his like adult drama stuff that he started with Schindler's List with his more blockbuster Jurassic Park stuff. You know what I mean? Like he really starts. It's one of the rare movies where the two halves of him kind of actually come together.
Yeah. Awesome.
I'm doing a little shuffling now that I'm responsible for 9.
All right.
Because I think I want to slot that bad boy into my 5. There's a bad boy I want to slot into my 5 because I have to make a fucking case for it. I think my number 9 might actually. Ooh, baby, this hurts. This hurts so bad. Like I have to just send all. Kill your darlings. This is killing darlings. All right. So my number 9. Man, I'm throwing a big one under the bus just to like get an audible in there. Oh shit, this is such dead air. Because the thing is, like, there's this one movie that, and Garrett already knows what it is, that I am going to have to make a case for because it is written into law that I have to defend this movie with my dying breath.
I'm pretty sure I know what movie it is too.
Yeah, but there's 2 movies that are like kind of him doing the same thing, and one of them's the better movie, but the one that I just like better is going to be my number 9 pick, and it's going to be Munich.
Whoa. Okay.
Oh, okay. All right. I will. So you can make your case for Munich, Dan.
Yes.
Munich it was funny. One of my best friends, his family is like they're very, very like they're the most religious Jewish people that I've ever known, and so I was hanging out in his house when his dad came home from watching Munich, and we were like, "Oh, is it good?" And he was like, "A movie like that isn't good." And I was like, I asked him what he meant by it, and he was like, "Well, that's not a movie that is good or bad. It's just a movie that you experience." And that was all he said on it. And he was like kind of an oddball dude.
That's pretty hardcore.
I took that with me when I went to see it. Like that's a hell of an experience.
Yeah.
And it taught me a piece of history that I didn't really know about, which I think is always fun in a movie. But I don't know, it's an incredible performance from Eric Bana. You just feel that guy. The scene where he meets the lady at the bar, and she's very aggressive, and she's beautiful, and she's very forthright that I want to take you to bed. And he lies on the strength of like his family. He's like, "No, I have a wife. I'm not doing this." And like she makes that offer fucking so good. And anybody would have taken it. And he was good enough not to. And then it turns out that she's an assassin that was just trying to kill him. And it was this moment where just like his love for his family and his faith in all that he was defending, even leaning into violence to defend, he couldn't forsake it. And it actually saved his life. And that is just, what an experience. That whole movie centers around that for me. But man, what a flick. It's got to be here. No one else is going to suggest it. It has to be here.
I totally agree. Dan, this and Minority Report and one other movie were like a 3-way mental coin toss for me for that 10 slot. So I'm very happy to see this at number 9. So I was like, all right, if I don't play Munich might not be on this list. But it's
I had to make a case for Munich.
It's literally my number 9. So
awesome.
You nailed it.
Oh, right on. Oh, I'm glad we got together.
Yeah,
it's so good. And it's funny because even like my friend's dad was just kind of being a goofball, but he like kind of meant it too.
Yeah.
And it was just funny the way it informed that we went in. We were both like, I guess we have to kind of take this movie seriously because your dad said so. And so it was one of those first movies where I was at the age where I was like, I'm going to engage with a long, good movie and just really work with it. And it paid off in droves. Munich is incredible.
Yeah. I definitely feel like this is, I don't know, another one of those like definitive, if you're looking at like the whole career of Spielberg, this is one of the ones that like has to be in there. I think it like defines a period of his career, So yeah, I'm into it. Dan, you also get to pick number 8.
I get to pick number 8. Now the question is, do I throw something in there that I think one of you will get rid of immediately so I could sneak in something I'd love to have on this list that might not make it.
Oh, right. Interesting. I see
Yeah.
what you want somebody to veto a movie so that you can then put a movie there that can't be vetoed. I
That
understand.
can't be, because like the one movie, fuck, and you know what it is that I have to get on this list.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And
The question is for me that I've been thinking about since we decided to do this is how many movies from that franchise need to be in this 11.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. But here's
I
the
agree.
thing, like, I think that there's room for 2 of them.
And I might agree with you, and I don't know that I'm going to agree on the same 2.
No one's gonna agree with me.
Yeah.
No one's gonna
I don't
agree
know.
with me.
I don't know.
I just want to remind you all that there are 11 movies in this list,
Uh-huh.
Right.
and so maybe we can be a little forgiving about some things.
Uh-huh. I mean, not for nothing. If I were going to pitch it anywhere, it would be right here. I don't think it would be any higher than right here.
Yeah, I'm going to say this is your best chance.
Yeah.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I have another pick that I can do
Yeah.
that
yeah.
I know will be vetoed on account of it absolutely must be higher.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, interesting.
Man. But, oh, God.
What if I just dropped? I'm not dropping the post, but it would be very funny if after all this I dropped the post on you.
And I'd be like, "Yep, let's do it." Number 8, The Post. That movie fucking rules. Weirdly, The Post has become one of my comfort movies. Like,
it was what I had in at my 11, just on defense of like I want a Spielberg newspaper movie.
mm-hmm.
That's a thing you gotta have. That's part of it.
I would love a Spielberg newspaper trilogy.
Oh my god, he does like print media, TV media, internet media. Shut it down.
I'll make the social network for TikTok.
Yeah. All right. Well, you know what? What if right here I just decided to put in you know what? Fuck it. It's never gonna make the list. I don't care. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
All right, make your case. Make your case.
Make your case.
Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom is the best movie ever made to show to somebody who's never seen it. Hands down. It is the most fun movie to watch other people watch. Whether they've seen an Indiana Jones and you go, you have not seen an Indiana Jones. This is the different one. This is the one that's different than what you expect. It is responsible for so much of what I love. It's probably responsible for why I love Spielberg. It's definitely responsible for why I love horror. It is one of the best adventure movies. There's real stakes. It's deeply scary. The set pieces are so good. You got Short Round. You got the bridge set piece at the end. The dude you got the heart rip. Kalima! The left tunnel, the right. The whole thing is Kate Capshaw screams her fucking head off the whole time. It's just the most entertaining movie. It is a carnival ride. It is a circus. It is everything that going to a movie should be. It is Harrison Ford at his hunky best. And because it's scary and he doesn't know what to do, he has to do a lot of moments where Indiana Jones is up against something he can't handle. And in a way that's not just him being comically dismissive. He's a little bit scared in it. And it's just, I don't know. It's never going to make it. I made my case. The world, you heard it. You heard it here first. Temple of Doom rocks.
I need you to know how much I actually agree with like every single thing that you're saying. We went to see this on the big screen. I think, did we do that together at some point, Dan?
We did indeed.
Right? At the Ritz?
Mm-hmm.
And
at the Ritz.
I loved it. Like, I had so much fun with it. It really is
Chilled
a blast.
monkey brains. Yeah, eyeball soup. Do you have something? Perhaps a soup. Yes, we have soup. It's eyeball soup. Yeah. It doesn't get better than that. It's gross. It's funny. It's just kind of mean and gnarly.
It's super fun, and I really like your take about it, like kind of being an intro to horror for like young people, because I think it definitely serves that in an interesting way.
It legit fucked with my head as a kid.
Yeah, but Here's the thing. There's 1000% going to be another Indiana Jones movie on this list, whether we like it or not. Like, there's just nothing I can do about that. Someone's going to get it on this list one way
And
or
I'll
the
finish
other.
your thought. And there's room for both of them, is what you're going to say.
I don't know that there are. I just I just don't know that there are.
Dan, I really want to commend you because that is the best case I've ever heard for Temple of Doom. And
Thank you.
I agree with everything you say. The movie has a lot of other problems. In terms of like, this is not a movie. Oh, it hasn't aged well because of the racial dynamics. India protested this movie's existence because they were like, this is hella racist in 1984.
Yeah.
Like, so, and I'm not saying it shouldn't be on the list because of that. I'm just saying it adds,
it makes it more of a complicated choice.
Right, but I will say that case for it is impeccable. Like, bravo.
It's just
in
so
a world
fun.
where there's 3 more of these,
right?
And, we've and one of them for sure is going to be on here. I just don't think there's anything we can.
I almost threw the 4th one down on this.
Yeah. Oh,
just to get Temple,
yeah.
But then I was like, oh, maybe I could throw Raiders on this.
Yeah.
Because of course Raiders is coming up later.
Yeah.
And then that would be sacrificed. But you know what? I just wanted to make my case for it. Because I know it's not on this list. It probably, if we're going to talk objectively, doesn't belong on this list. But God damn it, I'm throwing a punch for it.
Look, there's a huge part of me that wants to have a list with this movie on it, but I've got 2 of these fucking vetoes. I got to burn one of them, and this feels like knowing that another one of these is definitely coming up. I unfortunately am going to veto this. Now, that doesn't mean you can't bring this up again later, Dan.
Right. Yeah. No, actually, honestly, now that it's out of my system, it feels correct that it's not on this list.
Okay, all right.
Because I almost agree because I think that is a complicated thing with it. Mm-hmm. They literally did protest it, and when you think of it through that lens, it is pretty fucked up. Yeah. But for me, my experience with it as a kid is I didn't think of it as India. I just thought of it as a foreign thing, which of course has its own problems to it as well. But there are other reasons like this. Just the set pieces and Raiders are just better. It's like,
and like I
this
said,
is just in my soul.
That's not a personal judgment. I enjoy this movie a lot. It's it's not my favorite in the series, but I definitely recognize the good and the bad within it. And I think to your point, I can enjoy it on a personal level. It makes me think twice about putting it on this list because of, you know what I mean? That's all.
I agree with that 100% because I will agree that I think at least one of the remaining ones are probably objectively better movies, but it is my personal favorite for sure.
Understood.
So do I throw something crazy on there? Or since you vetoed it, I just get to die on the blade of another movie that should be on this list that I don't think will make it. Guess what, motherfuckers? You're stuck with Bridge of Spies. Right now you are.
Whoa.
I mean, you say that like it's a bad thing. I want to hear your Bridge of Spies case, Dan.
It's another one in terms of form as function. That is a movie that looks great, is sharp, is very, it's not Spielberg just pointing a camera. He's really having fun there. And it just serves to tell the story well. And it's a really good story. I know the Coens did a pass on the script, so it's got a little bit of a sharpness to the dialogue. It's got one of my favorite Tom Hanks performances, hands down. Mm-hmm. He has a cold the entire time, and he has to wear it on his face. And so him having a cold during the Cold War is just like, it's on the nose, but it's done in a way that it becomes, thematically connected, and that this is the process of riding out a cold. This is the process of just like, we can't really do anything about it. We just have to press forward through these symptoms. And as he's trying to negotiate something a little bit more than what he's there for, on account of him wanting to do something good as well as just doing his job. And like, it was just a really good movie at a, I almost can't explain it. It's a movie that I just really enjoy the fucking shit out of. It's one of the, I sat there by myself in the theater going, not a lot of people are seeing this, but this is just a solid, killer little movie, huge fucking movie.
I knew at a certain point this was going to happen. This is one of the ones I haven't seen, and I don't have any reason to veto this movie, nor do I think I should double veto. I think that's I'm just going to throw that rule on here as we go. So
you're the only one who could,
like it.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I love this movie. I was not surprised I loved this movie. I think going into that year, it was one of my most anticipated movies of the year. I love Tom Hanks. I'm a big fan of the Coens. Obviously, I love Spielberg. And again, Tom Hanks is cold. Like I really can't emphasize how much that really, because they don't shoot movies in order. And like his performance of that cold is modulated perfectly. So when you watch the movie, you can see it start, it gets worse, and then it gets better. And it's like, keeping that in your head as to like, okay, at this point of the movie, this is exactly how bad, like how congested I'm going to sound. It's just, it's like next level intentional acting, because I feel like it's really easy to play like a big cold, but he plays the arc of a sickness. And like, it's just like, that makes it masterful. And there's so much where like Spielberg makes this stuff look easy, but it's so engaging. And I think, again, it's one of those period movies that speaks to now as much as it explains a chapter of history, in terms of, the way that we're conducting the Cold War is really a test of what America is and what our ethos is supposed to be as Americans. And like, that's part of why Tom Hanks is trying to exceed his reach in doing what he's doing, because he feels like it's the right thing to do. It's the American thing to do, and I think Spielberg kind of has this like loose trilogy with Lincoln and The Post of, America in times of crisis, and kind of looking at it through different lenses, and, seeing where we've been tested. And I think this is the most entertaining of all of those, and the most interesting, because it does fill in like a hidden part of history. Like, you're not, it's not like Daniel Day-Lewis and Lincoln, where you're like, how does this look compared to the $5 bill? It's like, these characters can live and breathe because you don't know anything about them before the movie.
That's a good way to say that. Yeah, because this is another one like Munich that was historically informative to me. It was something that's like, I kind of hear about this kind of thing, but I don't know any stories. And it's, what a good story. And this is kind of my sneaky way of emotionally getting Stallone on the list, because Mark Rylance got his Oscar for this, edging out the best supporting actor of Stallone, who would have deserved it for Creed, but I'll go on record as saying did not. The right kid died. Rylance deserved that Oscar, but this is my way of getting him in there in my heart just a little bit.
Tom Hanks is Cold is a great punk band name. I hope someone's watching this and takes that.
I think Arc of a Sickness is a great like metal band
it's
name.
Their album title, and then the second album is just like COVID Summer.
Yeah.
These are all King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard album names.
Yes.
Although when you said COVID Summer, I was reminded that Spotify told me the other day that Blink-182 made a song called Quarantine in Quarantine.
Okay.
I'm not going to say do or don't listen to it. I'm just going to say that you have all the information you need at this juncture, and there's nothing you can do to gain more. That's all I'll say.
Number 8, Bridge of Spies, right? Okay,
Number 8's Bridge of Spies. I feel good about that. That was worth.
So here's the list so far. Number 11, Adventures of Tintin. Number 10, Minority Report. Number 9, Munich. Number 8, Bridge of Spies. Okay,
I feel really good about those choices. I thought I was going to feel horrible.
No, so far this rocks, and this is where I have to figure out what the heck I want to do, because there's some important. There's some important stuff to me here, but I have the slots where I feel like I'm gonna just be forced into a couple of movies. So I really only have this shot at putting something here. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you're not throwing away your...
Yeah. Boy, okay. Oh, but what if I... man. All right.
The most quotable thing we're going to get from this podcast is every one of us being, so what am I? Oh man. That quote is going to be pulled 100 times.
I guess I'm gonna do
it hurts, doesn't it?
It's really hard.
Yeah. Oh, and I only get to pick 3 movies. God, son of a goddamn. All right, I'm gonna go for War of the Worlds here. I feel like this is my best shot at getting War of the Worlds on this list. Is in the number 7 spot. I'm a huge fan of this movie. I feel like this is one of his most underrated movies. I think there are some cheesy aspects of this movie that get under people's skin for some reason, and sort of for some reason people allow it to kind of like ruin what I think is like a really, really one of the best. We were talking about secret 9/11 movies earlier, where they don't tell you they're about 9/11, but they're emotionally about 9/11. I think that this ends up being one of the better post 9/11, like trying to unpack 9/11 and what it meant and felt like to live through that movies. While also being, this is from the period we were talking about with Minority Report, and so I know this period is already kind of on our list, but it is a marriage of the dramatic Spielberg and the more sort of popcorny Spielberg, down to an amazing horror, like haunted house sequence, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the drama down there, I also think in that shed sequence turned people off initially. Rewatching it, it's some of the best stuff in the movie, I think. It's some of the most emotionally resonant stuff in the movie. Dan, I know you and I talked a lot about how the ending of this movie in particular people hate, and I think it is a wonderful end to this story. I think it's the ending this story needs, especially in 2005 when this was made, and in the long view of 9/11 and what it's about. I think it's the ending this story needs. Anyway, I love this movie. It's a tremendous Cruise performance too. I think it's one of the more unique Cruise performances in his kind of oeuvre work as well.
When he realizes that he's covered in people dust and has the freak out to pat all the dust off, that is like peak Cruise doing Cruise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I revisited this movie earlier this year because the 4K came out, and it looks
gorgeous,
amazing.
Yes.
And I'd only seen, I think I saw it in the theater, and then one time since then, so it was like my third time watching it, and I was completely blown away, and I was really nervous about rewatching it during the pandemic, because it was early enough on where there were people squabbling over toilet paper, and the scenes where everyone is surrounding the car and his daughter is in the car and he's like, I don't even care about the fucking car. I just want to get my daughter. But it's like a mob situation and then guns come out, and it's like between that sequence and the ferry sequence and the basement sequence, it's some of the most tense, even watching at home during daylight hours, I was squinched into a ball of tension. I really like this movie a lot. It probably narrowly misses my personal, just because there are so many other great movies. It probably just misses my personal 11, but I'm super psyched to see it on this list. I think it's very interesting that all of these are 2000s and 2010s Spielbergs so far. It's just an interesting note, because I think we're all kind of,
and I will say that's reflective of my list overall. I was thinking about that earlier. I was like, should I vary this more? And I was like, no, I think this is it. But I had this movie higher on my own list, but I didn't.
Same.
With the, given the picks that I have to make, I thought that this was my best bet at getting it on this list. Unless, Dan, you do think it really deserves to be that much higher.
See, that's the thing. I'm very tempted to veto you just to get my 5 with it. Yeah. But I think you're correct that this is probably the best gambit to get this on here. Yeah. And I would actually shut out this call and quit the call if we couldn't get War of the Worlds on it. This was my 100% will done. Temple of Doom, of course, there's a million reasons why it shouldn't be on the list.
Sure.
There are no reasons why War of the Worlds shouldn't be on the list. I like that ending. I like that it's hopeful. Great. But I like too that it represents the idea that there's heroism in just saying we have to run, as well as someone saying I have to fight this evil, whatever it is. It just comes together so nicely. And that first sequence when it comes out of the ground and he's just murking people left and right, and they just don't exist anymore. That is one of the most beautifully horrifying effects I've ever seen depicted. Yes. And they carry the weight of that alongside of the big budget of it all.
Yes.
That movie is absolutely relentless.
It's tremendous.
It is one of my favorite Spielbergs, certainly in my top 3 ever. I fucking love that movie.
Definitely one of my best theatrical experiences of my youth is this movie.
Hands down.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The other Cruise thing I want to mention is when they stop at the mom's house, and he's like, oh, you kids have to eat. I got some bread and I got some peanut butter and some cheese.
All he knows how to do.
And the kid's like, I'm allergic to peanut butter, and he's like, fuck, I just don't know what. I don't know how to dad.
The baseball sequence.
Oh my god, yeah.
Oh, that's
The sound of that baseball is terrifying.
Wait, also, can we talk about this really quick just because I think it's super funny? I don't know why, but it's burned into my brain. The opening shot of this movie is wildly hilarious. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? It's this insane crane shot where Tom Cruise himself is operating like a big crane, like up in the sky, but the shot is like feels like a digital shot. It doesn't feel like a real shot, but it's like a really big, like, moving crane shot, like, in on him, like, meet, like, doing his little, like, blue-collar work and his big machine. It's so funny. Every time I see it, it makes me laugh.
That movie has a really good crane shot when they're riding in the van down the highway.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going through, traffic, both abandoned and real, and it dips in and out of the car, around, over. It's like really bravado stuff that was really well done and looks mostly practical in terms of a crane being worked. Right. It's that movie I agree, this has to be on this list, and if here's how it's going to be,
love it,
then here's how it's going to be.
Number 7, let's lock it in. So number 6 goes back to Ryan.
All right, so I have number 6 and number 2 left, right?
You have number 6 and number 3 left.
Number 6 and number 3, okay.
Yes.
All right, so man, all right.
I know.
Because I have to think, because there's a movie that, like,
I know we're gonna have to talk about this later. There is a movie that I maybe should have picked for the number 7 slot, given what just happened there, but I don't know.
I mean, yeah, maybe, and then maybe and then right now I'm like, there's 2 movies that I'm like, okay, if I don't put either of these on this, are they going to make this list at all?
Right, exactly, yes.
And I'm like, to me, they're solidly in there.
Yeah.
And like, one of them I feel like is easy to dismiss because it's easy to overlook how great it is. And the other one is the same, but for entirely different reasons. And they're both from, again, this era of, like, all right, later Spielberg.
Wait, what did we land at on 10?
10 was Munich, my friend. No, sorry, Minority Report.
Okay.
We got Tintin, Minority Report, Munich,
British Spies, War of the Worlds. Wow, this is interesting. Okay.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
So
the 6th spot, pretty big.
I know. Fuck.
It's so hard once it actually comes down to being like, well, this is it.
This is it. And this is like
I got 5 and 2, right?
Yeah.
I got some pressure on me for 2.
So
I hope you guys are on board. Okay.
I know.
I hope you guys are on board, because if there's a very real chance that we could hash this all out with all this politicking and then realize that we've shut out something essential.
I know. I think we're right on the edge of that happening.
There's one movie that I think is so hardcore goddamn essential that if it doesn't make this list, I'm going to lose my goddamn mind.
All right.
There's a lot on the line here.
I know. I'm with you.
I'm going to drop at number 6. And I'm glad that my wife Jill is not in the room to hear me. If she knew what movies I was thinking about, she'd be like, "You're fucking insane." I hate you for picking this one over the other one. Yeah. I'm going to drop at number 6. Catch Me If You Can.
Ooh, all right. Okay. Make a case.
I will so take that.
So, Catch Me If You Can. It's one of my favorite genres of movie, which is the con artist movie. Yes. It's probably my favorite in the genre, actually. It's based on a real life story of Frank Abagnale Jr. So, he's played by Leonardo DiCaprio. He's got daddy issues with Christopher Walken. He's being chased down by FBI agent Tom Hanks. They call each other every Christmas.
His name like McHattie or something like that? What's his...
Hanratty, I think.
Hanratty, that's it.
Carl Hanratty.
Yeah. That's off the dome, by the way.
Yeah.
That's how many times I've seen this movie. And then, this blew my mind when I was a kid, and he gave one of Leonardo DiCaprio's like alias names that he uses is Barry Allen, who's the Flash.
Nice.
And as a kid, I was like, oh my God, they're referencing comic books. That's amazing. Like, because, we'll never have The Flash in a movie or like 12 seasons of a television show on a major TV network. And so that was super special at the time. But I love that there's so much of him truly as a confidence man, where he is just through sheer, I'm going to put on this Pan Am uniform, I'm going to strut my stuff, and I'm just going to get free plane rides because I'm going to say I'm a pilot that's off duty. And the way that he's passing checks, Amy Adams is in this movie and is amazing in her like
Oh,
two
yeah.
scenes. I absolutely love this movie, and I want to really also call out the John Williams score, because if you just played a clip of the score, you would never guess that it was John Williams, because it's jazzy, it's like very like 60s pop in a way, and it's so unlike what we associate with John Williams, and I absolutely love it.
Dude, I'm so happy that you put this right here, because this was one of the ones I was juggling for the last spot, because I also think that this must be on this list. I also think that this one could be easily overlooked, and it should not be. What I remember about this movie is that recently, Dan, you and I had that thing where like we sort of like discover like Robert Pattinson is like, whoa, this like teen actor that I didn't give a shit about like is tremendous. Like, what a daring, interesting actor. This is the movie that I remember that happening for me with when I was younger with DiCaprio.
Oh,
I
right on.
remember seeing this movie and being like, holy shit, like he is incredible. Like he
Yeah,
has
he's
so
good.
much more range than I was giving him credit for, because I pretty much saw him in Titanic and then watched him, on magazine covers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Same,
I didn't
same.
see a lot of the other stuff that he had done when he was, because he did other great work when he was younger. I don't mean to dismiss that. I just hadn't seen it at the time. This was the movie I remember sort of giving me that transition to like he's what a great actor. You know what I mean? Because he's
100%. I would
and,
agree.
I'm
Same
at the
thing.
time. What am I? I'm a teenager, I think, when this comes out, and so like it's also like he's going toe to toe with who I think at the time is one of the great actors, Tom Hanks. You know what I mean? And he's just like showing up and owning those scenes. You also get, we talk about this a lot, where like this movie gives you a walk-in performance that is pretty much a co-lead performance. Like it's one of the few walk-in performances that isn't just a walk-in and out of the movie performance. It kind of is, but it feels a little meatier than a lot of the walk-in performances we get, which is great, and he's awesome in it.
And that was
love
around
this
the
movie.
time too where he started doing just like Walken shows up and does Walken.
Yeah,
And he actually like worked it in a good way there. Yeah.
Yeah, that performance is like, even going back to watch it now, it's even more. It's always more layered than I remember too, which is awesome.
Yeah, that movie's fantastic.
Great.
This was when I made like a ranking to do this. I had this in my 7.
Nice.
So I would never veto this movie.
I had it in
I
my
think about
5.
the way he asked how he'd like to take her out for a steak dinner. The delivery of that line, it's just like 100% of the people on the planet would say yes to that. I don't care who you are. You'd just be like, I would absolutely like to go out for this steak dinner. You sold it on me, sir.
Yeah. This
And
is
that's
also,
how you got away with it.
I know this is true of a lot of Spielberg movies in general, but this is a movie that is long but doesn't feel long. And this is one of a really good example of a long movie that does not feel long at all. It moves real quick. So where does this put us? This puts us at number 5 for Dan, I think, right?
Oh, God damn it. Pressure's on.
Man, your guys' reaction to that last pick, I feel very relieved right now, and I'm like, now I'm basically like, all right, we're in the end game.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah. We got 5 slots left, and I think I've got 3 movies that have to come up yet. Personally.
I have 4, but
All right.
Yeah.
I get so caught up in my other ones, I don't even know what I'm throwing in here. Because it's like, do I want to waste something that I know will get something else ranked higher? Do I really want to put this in this far low? Because now it's about respect. I gotta get this right. Oh, man.
Like, I feel like I can already see at least one thing not being on this list that I feel like is going to be, we're going to look back at this and be like, how did we do that?
Yeah, I mean, how did we not already have Warhorse on this list?
Right, yeah.
It was never going to be Warhorse. You know what? I like Warhorse. That's a good movie. I just cannot get on board with emotionally connecting with a fucking horse. See,
it's funny. Like Warhorse, one of my favorite movies of that year, actually, because this
movie would come up.
Because
you guys are acting like I'm not going to put this at number 1. Come on.
When that boy gets reunited with that horse after all the shit they've been through, I wept. Like, I was bawling tears. Like, I was like, and they're back together, and the war's over. like, I was just like emotionally drained in a way that like I wasn't even expecting, because like watching the movie I was like, oh yeah, war horse, blah blah blah,
And then
there's
he
war,
pulls the
there's a
plow.
horse, right? And then I was like, I just lost it. It was like total immediate waterfall.
Hell yeah, dude. Yeah, that movie. I remember cheering and doing like a war horse when he was riding the horse next to the car, and then War Horse was faster than the car.
Yep.
And you're just like, get him, War Horse! Go be the dream! Be the dream! Oh, it's good stuff. But no, for my 5, I'm not going to be picking War Horse. Maybe I will. Maybe now is the time that I. Yeah, you know what? Let's go with Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
This was the one I thought might not make it. So I like this.
Yeah, when they re-released Close Encounters, because this is a movie that I didn't really like, and it's a movie that like definitely has some problems in terms of like the motivations of the main character. But when you look at it in the respect of like what we all presume Spielberg is working through in his movies, it does make sense on that level. But for me, the thing that won me over was it came out again a few years ago. It was like a new transfer or something, I don't know. And I went and saw it on an IMAX screen, and it like really just I mean, it took me to space. It was awesome. In the literal sense of the term awesome. The scene at the beginning when there's that like loud chanting that's going on, and the way that sounded shook my core. And I just remember having the feeling of like, man, this is like why I see a movie. And it's the kind of moment that like only Spielberg has really gotten at that temperature. It's just a flavor that he does best. And his flavor came through in that moment. And I've just always really loved that movie since then. And I don't know, it's got a really batty performance from Richard Dreyfuss, who's just like kind of fun to watch be batty. What's his name? Bob Balaban. Always great when he has to show up and be just like dismissive. And the effects are just so good. They're just. When I was a kid, when the aliens showed up, I was like, I was thinking Independence Day, and I remember being like, this is stupid. They just play some songs together. And now as an adult, as they're playing songs, I'm just like, they're communicating beyond the stars. It's true movie magic, and I think that it absolutely deserves to be on this list. And if you veto it, I can't suggest it again because it's just too high on the list.
Yeah, I was going to say
at the same time,
I was going to say this is the highest that it could be on the list, I feel like, in my mind. And
I think I'm with you.
And I'm going back and forth because, again, Dan, I agree with absolutely everything that you said. Like the sound design, the scope of this movie, like weirdly, it does a thing where, like, similar to War of the Worlds and similar to a couple other movies that might be higher on this list, it has really huge stakes, but it manages to show those stakes, yet also ground us in a very particular perspective of what's going on. And like the sequence of the mom and her kid in that house is like absolutely terrifying and mesmerizing. And it's just lights and wind. Like it's nothing, it's very low tech in that way.
It's the movie that I visually associate a lot with Poltergeist, which is one of my favorite movies. And the connections to those notwithstanding, but yeah, that flavor is that Steven Spielberg flavor. This is where I see it at its most distilled and purest, and what its effects do. This is where I see it. In some ways it's most basic, but But
I'm like, I'm so close to vetoing it because. I get really frustrated by not Dreyfuss's performance, but the character arc. Because, I agree it makes sense from the perspective of a child angry at their parent. But I don't know that it makes sense to me as, like, an adult watching the movie. It's hard for me to identify with him because my brain hasn't been hacked by aliens into making mashed potato mountain.
That's what I say. Yeah, his motivations. It's weird to get on board with.
Yeah, and so like that's where I struggle because I think Spielberg is so good at directing characters, and again, it's not a knock on the performance; it's a knock on the character choice.
Yeah,
and it's like that's the only thing that in my mind I'm like, okay, knowing what else could be in this list.
Yeah.
Do I knock it off? And then I'm trying to think of like what is Dan gonna play in that? And then I'm like trying to game out the rest of the list. Yeah.
But what if I said if you knock this, it is going to be Temple of Doom. What would you say if I said
hold
that?
on. Allow me to make a quick impassioned plea to not
please.
veto this movie, which is that I think for one thing I would very much like for there to be some representation from his earlier career. I think there definitely will be one way or the other, but I think of his earlier career, for me, this is the most deserving to be on this list. I think this is where you put it on this list as the early entry that is really striking and good and kind of tells you the identity of this filmmaker and all that kind of stuff. And allow me to put this extra layer on it, which is that, Star Wars is maybe the movie that made me fall in love with science fiction, but that's not really true. Star Wars is the movie that made me fall in love with movies. I think Close Encounters of the Third Kind is the movie that made me fall in love with science fiction movies as a kid. I remember being very young at a party somewhere. Your parents take you to parties and it's like all their friends bring their kids too, and there's just like a basement that they just shovel kids into to just hang out for a while.
Weirdly appropriate. That's how I saw the movie Powder.
Yeah. Well, here's what I remember though. So I remember seeing some Twilight Zones in a basement like this or whatever, right?
Yeah.
What I remember though is going upstairs to find that the party was winding down and a movie was on TV, and I sat down and I distinctly remember it was the scene where the planes show up in the desert where they're and the boat where they're out there. And I remember sitting down and some adult, I have no idea who, some adult turning to me and saying, "Oh, you need to see this movie. This is one of the great movies." And I remember just being so focused on this movie because an adult had just told me that it was truly great. And my little mind was so ready to be "Oh, okay, this is you know what I mean?"
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I
That's amazing.
being floored by it. And I've seen it so many times since, and it rouses those same emotions every time. I'm sure partly due to nostalgia, but also because I think this movie does work. Even in, I think the argument over the Dreyfus character, which is an argument worth having, where I think that it is true that in the long view of Spielberg and what he's dealing with and trying to cope with over the course of his movies, there's something very interesting here in this character, but also that the character doesn't make sense outside of that context. I think that what he is good at is bringing you into that context. I think when you watch this movie, it works, and you understand that guy and what he's going through and how he gets through this process. For me, the movie itself sells me on all of it. It works inside of the movie. And so to me, it's it's almost not worth that pulling it off of the list. If that makes sense.
I would agree. It's almost like I don't agree with his decisions, but I guess they do sort of. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna argue on it.
Yeah, for me, it's that I don't. It's not that I don't agree, but it's not that I would agree or disagree. It's that I don't understand.
Yeah.
And then I also realize I'm not meant to understand, but that also kind of feels like a cop out. You know what I mean? So
that's the way to put it. Yeah.
But you guys made great cases. I will let it stand. I will not veto.
Right on.
This is exactly where this movie should be on this list.
I kind of figured if I didn't make a case for it, no one would. I don't know why. But it really is movie magic. It's just one of those movies that does it. And I think you're right, Garrett. This is the first thing that I was like, this is what sci-fi looks like.
Yeah.
And I like that it's a peaceful alien movie. You know what I mean? It's not like a war. It's not a disaster alien movie.
I left myself in a weird position here, fellas. I actually am gonna have to almost underrank something, I think, or try and sell you on something wild that probably shouldn't be number 4 on this list. Because frankly, there's a lot of movies that I think people would be upset to see don't make this list, and I'll just fully admit it's because I am much more of a genre nerd, and so Spielberg has made a lot of, I think, the great genre movies, and they are what speaks to me in his catalog. So there's just certain things that, as good of movies as they are, I understand that they are good, and I understand that people think they are some of the great, tremendous movies. They just didn't come into consideration for me. So I can either lay something weird down to give everybody the opportunity to veto something and then see what we get here, or I can maybe underrank something. All right, I'll try it. Okay, yeah, all right. Okay, I hope this isn't a terrible idea. Number 4, AI, artificial intelligence. This was a movie I debated putting lower on this list. I think maybe probably if it's going to be on this list, should be lower on this list. So understandably vetoable in this moment. But I love AI. I remember seeing this in theaters. I have it on DVD, and I think I've watched it a couple of times since. I think this movie is full of like great performances, really sort of like dark, cynical idea. Like it is a much more cynical movie for Spielberg, and I kind of think that is what makes it so interesting to me. That this is like, he's so hopeful in general. Like we were talking about the War of the Worlds ending, which is this very hopeful ending. That it, and I think in the Amblin era of his movies, like that is literally the identity of these movies, is that they're these hopeful stories. And this one is, so I think cynical, that there's something interesting about that, about this guy allowing himself to sort of like show his dark side in a movie, but also get these like crazy, like the Jude Law performance is like so interesting and weird in this movie. And I don't know, I just really think this is a tremendous movie that is maybe the most overlooked movie. Well, probably not the most overlooked. There's a couple that I think maybe are rightfully overlooked, but of movies that I think are actually good, this is maybe the most overlooked one. And so I'm going to try and slot it in at number 4 for just because it's not getting on this list if it doesn't get here. But, argue with me and veto me, because I feel like that's definitely going to happen.
All right.
I'm just weighing everything against Temple of Doom.
Yeah. So for me, this was the last Spielberg movie I hadn't seen. Yeah. I watched the first like 2 hours last night, and then wrapped up the last 45 minutes this morning. Basically, that final like fifth act or whatever it is that takes place in the future, in the further future, I guess. And I feel like this is a beautifully made movie that I just don't like that much. I mean, like, it's hard because I like that it made me feel awful and like I was completely empty inside by the end of it. Like I just felt like a shell of a human being that will never truly be satisfied by the love of anything else in this entire universe. And that also I'm an insignificant speck, not really even worth considering from that perspective. And like I enjoy that he goes to that place, and even I think the ending, which I'd always heard was like, oh, very like fairy tale and like hopeful and optimistic. It is bleak as fuck. They're like, you can have your mom me back for 24 hours, but she will never have existed otherwise. And he's like, yeah, fine, a day, that's all I need, like, and like I think part of my frustration with this movie is in David's character not really evolving, and like only because it's so much a Pinocchio story does that kind of also work for me. But like, he literally doesn't mature. Like he is a perpetual child, but that also is part of what's really fucked up about the world of this movie and the premise of this movie. And I really appreciate that. My struggle here is like Garrett, if you were playing this at like, the 8, 9.
Listen, this is what I should have played at 7, but I was so afraid that War of the Worlds wouldn't get in if I didn't play it where I played it that I decided to leave this out. But now that I'm here, I don't actually have anything else that feels great for number 4. So you guys have picked the other movies that I might have.
That's the thing.
There
are a few things that still need to be represented.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
I actually, the last time I saw this movie was the first time I saw this movie, was just right when it came out on home video.
Yeah.
So I remember really enjoying it, but it hasn't stuck with me. And so it's just one of those where I think like in a world where Minority Report, War of the Worlds, and Close Encounters and Tintin are on this list, this feels extraneous.
Who's laying the veto down? Who wants to use it?
But what's weird is I almost feel like, do I really want to lay down a veto for something that I have just baseline feelings about right now?
So I'm going to throw down the veto, and I am only vetoing it because I think there's other things that need to be on this list. That's all.
Fair. I understand. Yes.
And I would rather see something underranked but represented rather than omitted. And in the top 4, like that's what we're playing with,
Understood. Understood. Yeah.
So
My only final thought about this movie is just I really think people should revisit it because I think it's better than people give it credit for and remember. And I do think that as technology is becoming more invasive in our lives, it's a very interesting movie about trying to address our emotional issues with technology. And I think there's actually something there that's really, really interesting, and maybe people haven't totally latched onto or dove into with it just yet.
yeah, I mean, both because of my personal age and maturity, like I'm glad I didn't see it until now because I think there's so much that I've been like, oh well, it's just like a Pinocchio riff, and like it's really like obvious the whole
Right.
time that like I just would have dismissed a lot of the texture of this movie. And also, I think to your point, as technology has gotten so much more entwined in our lives, I think that part of the movie actually resonates more than it would have in like 2002 or whenever it came out.
But I accept your veto, sir. I understand. This was the only crazy way I could do this. So listen, for number 3, I'm gonna put Raiders of the Lost Ark. Is anyone like upset with this being at number 3? Is this a terrible place to put this movie?
It's 4.
This is 4.
Yeah, sorry, 4. Yes. Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I mean, Raiders of the Lost Ark, I'm fine with it. I'm going to say I'm fine with it at number 4 because all of these could be number 1 from here on out.
Yeah, I'm fine with it at number 4, but I do feel like it needs to be represented higher because I'm fearful that another one's going to be on here and be ranked higher. And Raiders is like, I think if we're trying to be objective here, the best one.
I'm not afraid of that happening. Is that a fear that we need to have? I'm not afraid of that happening.
Because like Raiders, like I think the world would just be like, that's the Spielberg one. But like,
I mean, for me,
I like it at 4.
Last Crusade is my personal favorite, similar to your feelings about Temple of Doom.
And it's great. It deserves to be on this list.
Yeah. Absolutely. But if we're only going to put one, then this has to be the one.
It just
agreed.
does.
That's my thought.
It's so representative of all of these movies, and even if I can agree about like others being a favorite for a variety of reasons,
this broke the mold. This is it.
And this is the one that says it all. This is the one that is so representative of his particular interest in these serials and this era of filmmaking, and like it's the one that truly makes Harrison Ford a star. You know what I mean? It's like Star Wars, yes, but really this is the movie that like now he's just a box office, like he's castable for 20 more years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
and since it's not a sequel, there's no escalation, so everything's just an escalation because it's brand new. So there's not like riffs on other set pieces. There's nothing like that. It's just these are new big ideas. It's really phenomenal.
Yeah, and even if you're talking about favorite sequences from any of these movies, and maybe the minecart chase is more fun, or maybe the boat chase in the third one is more fun, or the interplay,
or the monkeys and the trees is beautiful and the most well-rendered thing.
It's more fun. I think that the face melting at the end of this movie is like
that is horrifying
and says it all. It's I don't know, the pinnacle of what these movies can be and really are trying to do, I think. I don't know. This is the one. This is the one that has to be on this list if one is going to be on this list. Yeah. And I think I had it at number 3 on my own list, but I think number 4 maybe actually is even a better position for it ultimately.
I love that with Raiders specifically, you can watch it in single reel, like 8 or 9 minute chunks, and it works. And you can watch them like not out of order, but you can skip one and the next one still makes sense, because it's that good about establishing like motive and stakes on like a sequence by sequence basis.
Yes.
And the other big thing that I think edges it out, and beyond just being the original, the thing that elevates it is the character of Marion, because like yes, she's also in Crystal Skull, but we don't need to talk about that right now. But like she is like she along with Princess Leia, both movies written by George Lucas, like that's to me like that was the female archetype growing up. Like those were the female characters that like resonated with me because they felt both very feminine and alluring, but also very assertive, and had their own ideas and their own agendas, and they have that back and forth and that sort of like flirting repartee, like kind of angry and then kind of joking, like all that, like that kind of relationship and that
Yeah.
kind of character is just something that like hits me at a core deep level.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's like, yeah,
Love it.
it really moment to moment, everything about it is set him up, knock him down. The dialogue exchanges, the stakes of every scene, the set piece for, everything. It is just, yeah, Raiders has to be on this list, and if it's not going to get higher from a veto, I'm
Yeah.
not going to waste. I'm going to end up not vetoing anything because I'm nice.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not that it's mean to veto.
on if on the Screen Drafts podcast, if you don't use your veto, it carries over to your next appearance. So then you would have like a second veto when we play it again if you don't use yours.
So there's like some incentive to hanging on to it,
Yeah.
but I didn't, I
Yeah.
want to give
we
credit
could always do it again at some point.
Exactly. I wanted to give credit to Screen Drafts for this, but I also, it's like this is their thing. I don't, so I didn't want to imply that this was a thing that we would do regularly or anything.
Right.
So.
Yeah. This seems like a fun one-off experiment just because, again, listening to the podcast so much, I'm like, oh, I really want to play this.
Yes. It's super fun.
Oh, yeah.
So, Ryan, it's your turn to give us a number 3.
All right. So number 3, and this is why I'm glad Raiders is at number 4, even though on my own personal list this is probably swapped around. But in these last 3 spots, to me, there can only be 3 movies out of his whole filmography that really ought to be in these top 4, really. And like the order I can live with, but I feel like I have to play this movie. I'm not sure that you guys have seen it off the top of my head, but Schindler's List absolutely needs to be represented. I saw this movie last year for the first time. I've been literally procrastinating it for my entire life. My life being a Seinfeld episode where everyone's like, wow, you have to see Schindler's List. And we did a Shame Files podcast episode on it. I think it's our longest episode ever. It's like 2.5 hours because, and I'm not using this as a way to like make this veto proof or anything. I'm just explaining my own personal context of, my father's family, my dad's family were Jews in Germany and fled. And there's a personal connection to this movie that I can't deny. And then, thinking about it, I think of I have, there are parts of my family that were wiped out and don't exist. And, I have other, friends that I've known through my grandparents that one of them, her husband disappeared as they were fleeing and never was heard from again, as far as anybody could tell. And she lived until she was 100. And I can't even imagine what it's like living with that. Because by the time I knew her, she was just a sweet old lady, but they were hopping train cars through France to try to escape to England and stuff. So there's, like I said, I have this personal connection to the movie, but I think it has such a power to it. And the thing that surprised me is I went in dreading it. I really have to watch this movie. It's eating my vegetables, doing my homework. And it blew me away by how watchable it is. It's a very long movie, and I'm not gonna say it doesn't feel long, but it doesn't feel as long as it is given its absolute length. It is moment to moment riveting filmmaking, and not in that not in the way that AI is overarching dread. This is a light, in a weird way, it's almost a lighter movie than AI, artificial intelligence, because it's so much focused on the ups and downs of human life in a very extreme scenario, but it has more moments of levity and more moments of glimpses of joy and just seeing people try to survive against the unsurvivable. So like I said, I was really skeptical that I was going to be that deeply affected, and I was completely blown away when I finally saw it.
Yeah, so
I watched this for the first time maybe 2 years ago, and I felt the same way about it, where I thought this is a homework movie, and it was one of those where I just one night I had nothing going on. I was like, you know what, tonight will be the night that I just plop in on it. And that was what I was most taken with, was just how watchable it was. This was when I said with Munich at number 9, when I said I was tossing it up with another movie that was similarly affecting to me, it was Schindler's List that I was talking about. Whereas I'm tempted to veto to make space on account of that. I can't. Schindler's List is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be here.
Yeah.
This is one of those ones that I saw in high school, literally in class. And that was the only time I saw it. And I remember feeling similarly to what you guys are describing, but that's all I remember. I don't really have, a strong connection to this movie. So this is one of the ones that I was sort of saying before, like, I understand people will want them on this list, but I have no real strong connection to these movies. That said, had you said this or Saving Private Ryan in one of these top 5 slots, I have no way to argue that that should not be one of the movies that we consider one of the defining movies of like Spielberg's career and the kind of movie that Steven Spielberg makes. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Schindler's List is a perfect number 3 that I'm happy to have there, even though I have no strong relationship to it myself. So I think we're all agreed that that is our number 3.
Cool.
Schindler's List.
Is it cheating to say that I should worry about a conflict between I don't want to say the movies.
Right.
There's a really big, important, formative movie that I understand would be that for all of us that I think would absolutely be the number 1.
Interesting.
And the question I have to do is ask myself if one of you is going to veto it, and I have to take the chance on it being 1 on account of the strength of how good that would be to be number 1.
Right. Garrett's the only one with a veto.
Yeah. And so here's the thing. I think it's down to there's 2 titles that I think are going to be represented here.
Yep.
And I'm trying to think of how I can play it to retain the most control.
Because I gotta tell you,
is it worth the honor of it reaching the number 1 spot to risk putting it in the 2 spot and getting vetoed? Or do I put it in the 2 spot, make it safe, and be happy that the other somewhat similar movie is definitely going to have that there?
To me, there is a clear number 1 Steven Spielberg movie that...
The problem is that could be 2 movies.
Yeah. And that's what I said. Like these top 4, they're all number 1 in my mind for different for various reasons. And these last 2 movies are like, it's like gun to my head. If you were like, which one is better? I'm like, it literally depends on like the molecules in my brain in that moment, like where they are in space and time. You know what I mean? It's like, I could
be wrong, but I feel like, Dan, because this is going to come down to me and you deciding this, I feel like we might disagree about which one of these movies is the movie that should be number 1. I feel
well, I think the safest way I can play it that allows me to retain most control, at least in terms of getting a certain one on here, although it might screw it, I'm going to put Jaws at 2.
I might have to veto this because I have one left, and I really... I mean, you should make your impassioned plea, but this to me is the hands down, no question, number 1 movie of Steven Spielberg's career, in my opinion.
I'm going to echo Garrett and just say Jaws is my favorite movie of all time. Like when it really comes to like a movie, you know what I mean? Like not thinking about, because obviously I have a very deep connection to Star Wars, and like, but Star Wars is so much more than that one movie at this point, and my relationship to Star Wars has rarely been about that one movie because I didn't even see that one first. And like Jaws is a movie I was afraid to watch for a long time. And then I watched it and I was like, wait, this is Jaws? It's not just people getting pulled down in the water and blood squirting.
It's an adventure.
It's an adventure. There's fucking pirate music in this movie. Like,
I love that the argument for number 2 is just going to be us arguing which one should be number 1.
I know.
Because dude, fucking dinosaurs.
I know. So here's the thing, though, is I feel like, Dan, I would be I'm so close to being the person that likes it better. The problem is I didn't get to see it on the big screen as a kid. This movie is the sticking point in my childhood of I desperately wanted to see this movie. Everyone I knew was seeing this movie.
I was in the exact same boat, dude. I had the toys and I didn't see the movie.
My parents would not let me see this movie. And so I had to convince my aunt, when I was sleeping over at my cousin's one night because she owned it on VHS. So years after all of the like wanting to see it, that my mom said it's fine, we can watch this, even though that was not true. And I got to see it on VHS at my aunt's. Now, I loved it, and I love this movie, and I continue to love this movie. I eventually did get to see it on the big screen, but I don't have the I'm 6 and I'm in the theater and I see this movie and it just fucking unravels my brain.
All right.
You
So
know
here's
what I mean?
here's my pushback. Okay. I just said Jaws is my favorite movie of all time.
Yeah.
Jurassic Park is the movie that got me into movies because
Yes.
I was obsessed with dinosaurs as a kid. Like I have a very specific memory of writing a letter to a museum after we got home because they had something wrong. And it was probably just like the exhibit was built in like 1984 and I'm there in 1994 and like the research has just changed and I have a newer book and they just don't have the money to update it. But you know, when you're a kid, you have no fucking clue. And I don't remember if they ever responded or not. But my mom like had read the Crichton novel and was like, man, there's some fucked up shit in this book. But like, I know that when they make this movie, I have to take this kid. There's no way that I'm not gonna be able to take this kid to this movie. So like her plan was, because at the time everyone's like, oh, the dinosaurs, they look so real, like you won't believe it. Right. So we watched every like behind the scenes special. Every time Spielberg was on like Entertainment Tonight, you know, every time they had like a sneak behind the peak or you know, or I had the like magazines where it was like, here's all the behind the scenes photos and interviews with the cast. And like
the very first issue I ever got of Disney Adventures had the T-Rex on the cover.
Yeah.
And that's why I got it. My dad came home. It was like from the gas station.
Your dad went out for cigarettes and he came back.
Came back, yep. With Jurassic dinosaurs and dreams of creatures.
You know, so like that's
the earth.
And then like it was the last day of school and my mom took me and one of my friends immediately afterwards to see Jurassic Park, and it was like one of the most glorious experiences of my entire life. But like that's my origin story for being realizing that like, oh, there are people that make movies, like you know, and like starting to understand that stuff. But that's how good Jaws is that I would still put that at number 1 personally.
Well, to echo everything Ryan said, and I had a similar experience to you, Garrett, it wasn't that I wasn't allowed to see it. My parents just didn't go to movies. It just wasn't something that they ever did. And so I just didn't have access to Jurassic Park when it came out. And I remember I first heard of Jurassic Park at the boardwalk because it was branded on everything, just like on shirts and stuff. And I was like, what is Jurassic Park? And my mom was like, oh, it's like a book, but it's about dinosaurs, but it's like more than dinosaurs. And I was like, well, what does more than dinosaurs mean? And so they bought me the novelization, like the kids novelization.
Oh yeah, I had
so tore through that, destroyed her copy of the big one, and like tore through that. But I just never saw the movie. And I remember when it finally came out on video, I was bugging my dad, like, can we please rent Jurassic Park? Please, I gotta see it. I had the action figures, I had the toys, I had the dinosaurs, the chunk that you could rip out so you could make the dinosaurs fight the chunks of each other. and the damage on the Jeep flew off and Muldoon. And, I had everything. They had missiles that never were anywhere near the movie. It was, I loved it so much, but I'd never seen the movie. And I remember one day my dad like came home from the store. I was like, "Did you rent Jurassic Park?" And he goes, "Better. I bought it." And it was like, ah! And so I ate that up. I didn't see that on the big screen until they did the 3D re-release. That was the first time I saw it on the big screen, and that
it's tremendous.
Floored me.
Yeah,
like,
awesome.
Absolutely tremendous.
Yeah.
Jurassic Park is why I like things.
Yeah.
It's like that is why it was just everything. Movies, dinosaurs. Like you said, Ryan, it was it was the age of understanding, like, oh, they make dinosaur puppets and then they type them into computers to make other ones. But also if we want to make real ones, we use fly blood. It makes perfect sense. It's science. Have you seen Westworld? And so like it was just but it's sounding like there's a 0% chance.
Well, but here's what this comes down to, Dan, because I have a veto left and you have a veto left, if I'm not mistaken. So, if I were so you played this movie you played Jaws 2 because that's how you feel. You truly feel like Jurassic Park, that's top of the pile for you. So that's why you played this year, right? If I veto you,
everything.
Yeah.
But if you veto me.
If I veto you so that I can make Jaws number 1, which I hereby vow and pledge to do, if this veto is accepted, I don't necessarily want to know what you put here. Oh, I assume I know what you put here in its place. right? But then are you going to veto me when I try and put Jaws at number 1? Because if you're going to veto me when I try and put Jaws at number 1, I can't have a world where that movie's not on this list.
Right.
But here's the thing. If you veto Jaws here, I'm only going to put Jurassic Park.
Right. Okay. Yes.
You know, like,
Yeah.
but at the same
wait,
time,
how funny? Wait,
I
how
have
funny
a
would it
veto,
be? Yeah.
and fuck you guys.
Yeah.
So
wait,
there's
is
that.
this Dan's way of getting Temple of Doom to be the number 2 movie on?
He's gonna take a total left turn and put The Lost World at number 2.
Yeah. Oh, right on. I could. I've never even seen the BFG. I'll do it. I will do it. I don't give a shit. This is a little piece of paper notebook. What does this matter? What do we get? Movie points?
Because
I want to be the nice guy.
If you're gonna veto my Jaws 1 spot, I will happily allow Jaws to be number 2. And I have fears of this. You don't have to tell me what you're gonna do, by the way. Like, you could just let me be scared so that this just holds.
I think that if I'm being completely honest,
yeah,
when it comes down to it, I guess when it comes down to it, you have to consider like cultural impact. The difference between Jaws and Jurassic Park for me is that Jurassic Park was of my time and therefore of my tastes.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But when I try and think of it canonically, when I try and think of it in terms of what was pulled off at what budget and with what resources, and in terms of like furthering iconography, I'll just put it this way. I have Jaws at 2, but like I'm going to ensure above everything that Jurassic Park is on this list.
All right.
Because that's the most important thing, is that it makes it. I think that it's probably correct that Jaws is higher ranked. This might just be an issue of taste.
Yeah, I think it is, and I saved a veto really just for this moment where I just.
But I want to go on record and say that Jurassic Park is as good as Jaws.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. That's fair. And I honestly, I could pretty much accept that. I feel like I'm a 6-year-old that got to see it in movie theaters away from that being the truth for me, you know?
See, I'm always a 6-year-old at the movies. So like, yeah. Even when I saw it at like, you know, I remember when I saw Jurassic Park in 3D, it was right after, like I just went from that, the first I went and saw the Evil Dead remake. Oh, yeah. So it was the Evil Dead remake, and then I went and bought some glasses and went to Jurassic Park all in one night, and it was like a primo night at the movies.
Well, I'm going to veto your Jaws number 2, and can I assume that gives us Jurassic Park number 2?
Yes. Yes, it does.
I was like, oh no, Skype froze at this exact moment.
Oh, no. Jurassic Park has to be on here. And I am willing to admit that Jaws is probably, if we're going to bring objectivity into it, which I guess we kind of are if talking about canon, even though I just like am allergic to that concept.
Yes.
It is correct that these movies are in here. And I think that Jaws is probably...
I 100% agree with you that it's correct. They're both in here. I 100% agree that they are the number 1 and number 2 Steven Spielberg movies. I don't think there's any other place these two movies can be. And in my personal opinion, they are now in the correct order, as I will choose Jaws as the number 1 movie. Dan, would you like to use your veto on my number 1 choice?
No, but I would like to theoretically ask what would end up there if I were to use my veto.
Oh, that's an interesting question.
That is an interesting question.
If you use your veto, I mean, wow. Actually, Dan, if I had to just go by what is left in this list that has not already been vetoed, which was AI, and is not already on the list because of our selections, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom is the next movie in order on my list. Well, I mean, you were to veto Jaws.
Yeah, I mean, you technically could play AI.
You pick it.
I think I could technically play AI again.
Yeah,
you could.
Yep.
Would you pick it?
So that Jaws can remain number 1? Yes, I would make AI the number 1 movie if you vetoed Jaws.
Sorry, no, I would never veto Jaws. I will save my veto for whatever currency that may come into in the future.
But if it gives you,
of course, it's Jaws.
If it gives you any peace of mind, Temple of Doom literally would be the next movie in contention to go in that spot.
No, because what would happen is I would be bringing Spite into the game, and then it would be Respond with Spite, and then that's how we end up with a list that doesn't have Jaws and does have. Yeah, so it's a whole mess. Eye for an eye, can't have it.
So here we go.
I will eat my veto.
Our draft. We've drafted for our top 11 Steven Spielberg movies. Number 11, Adventures of Tintin. Number 10, Minority Report. Number 9, Munich. Number 8, Bridge of Spies. Number 7, War of the Worlds. Number 6, Catch Me If You Can. Number 5, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Number 4, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Number 3, Schindler's List. Number 2, Jurassic Park. And Jaws, Steven Spielberg's number 1 movie. This was a fucking delight. I am super happy with that list, and this was fun to do.
Yeah, that's pretty good. It's so weird, though. I almost want to go back in time and I can't, though, and veto Tintin. At the same time, though, I don't, because it feels very good there. Like, Tintin is the perfect 11 slot in your top 10 list. It's like the ultimate 11 slot.
That's why it's there. I mean, so usually at the end of post-draft, they talk about the movies that didn't make the cut for whatever reason. So for me, Lincoln was really hard to omit. And the movie I was going back and forth with for Catch Me If You Can was Saving Private Ryan, because I figured there wasn't enough room left to get both of them on there, knowing your guys' taste a little bit and knowing what I also needed to be on this list. And so Saving Private Ryan is one of my wife's favorite movies of all time. And again, I think it's weirdly underrated at this point, because I think people don't remember how viscerally good and how good the story of that movie. Like, everybody remembers the Normandy Beach sequence at the beginning, but the rest of that movie is actually extremely entertaining and well done. The bookends, however, are not necessary. But yeah, and the other thing I just wanted to shout out, as part of watching, trying to fill in all of my Spielberg gaps, Empire of the Sun, very long, very interesting movie.
I saw that when I was a kid, and I liked that movie when I was younger. That's another one I would really like to revisit.
I haven't seen that one.
And then the most movie of any Spielberg movie that I watched this summer, his first movie, which was a TV release here and was a theatrical release in Europe, Duel.
Rules.
Duel is great.
Yeah. I was blown away.
What's that guy's name again? Dennis.
Yeah, hold on.
Dennis.
I got it right here. Give me 10. But that might have been Dennis Weaver.
Dennis Weaver, that's it.
Yeah, that might have edged into, if I had to do the 11 pick, that might have been it.
Yeah. I was curious as to see where we would land in period areas, and it is funny because contemporary is represented and genre is represented in older stuff.
It's interesting to me, but not surprising that it looks like the stuff we literally grew up with, the stuff that we could go see in theaters, makes up the bulk of our list here. I think, right?
So, Garrett, you were responsible for War of the Worlds, Raiders, and Jaws, right?
And Jaws, yeah.
Right, I'm just labeling it, because what's going to happen is after this, Jen is going to be like, so how'd it go? And I'm just going to play by play it.
I know.
This was so cool. This was so much fun.
Super fun. I know.
Is there anybody else with enough movies that we've seen all of that we could even do this?
I bet there is. I bet if we really thought about this, there would be, or we could go by franchise or something. Right. We could try and rank Fast and Furious or something like that.
Right. And so when you do a fixed set, so I think they call them a mega draft on Screen Drafts, where we could have actually drafted all of Spielberg's movies if we had seen all of them. When you do the complete set, and then you actually get veto overrides and stuff, because you need to be able to more flexibility in moving things around once they're played. Most of their episodes are a premise or a genre. So they'll do 60s westerns, or they'll do movies about brief romances. Fleeting romance movies.
I gotta give this a listen, definitely.
Yeah. So they do Universal Monsters. Mini mega
it'd be
draft.
fun to do a small one where it'd be for lack of better example, top 3 Tarantino, rank those, and everyone makes a case. But that would be tough. I guess there needs to be more moving pieces.
Yeah, but you could do all the you could rank. We could do a draft with all the Tarantino movies, because we've seen all.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And that could be a bitter fight.
I think it would be fun to do.
Oh yeah.
If we
that
just
one,
do
I
this every
will
once in a
bitterly
while?
veto people to get Death Proof in the number 1 spot.
I think if we do these every once in a while, that could be fun, and I don't feel like we would be, infringing on the screen draft there. which is I like cannot recommend people listen to that podcast enough. I've been having a blast tuning into that. They get like awesome guests to rank like really interesting. So as Ryan was saying, like just the premises are really interesting. So thank you guys very much. This was super fun. Should we plug things and close up here, gentlemen?
Sure.
Yeah. So at Dan Scully on everything. Letterboxd, Twitter, all that fun stuff. Cinema76.com, Findy.com. And my other podcast, Hot Property, is available if you just search that on the things where you look for podcasts. And we're, of course, always available at I Like To Movie, everywhere and anywhere. Yell it into the void, and our voices will echo back.
That's right. Ryan, go ahead and throw some plugs down, my friend.
Sure. You guys talked about my 3 podcasts at the top of the show. So you can find those wherever you find your other podcasts. And you can find me personally on Twitter and Letterboxd at Silber, whatever, that's with a B. You can also find my writing on cinema76.com. I actually have a review of Tenet that just went up today. And then I also want to plug the new edition of Movie John, which I was able to help out with and contribute an article. It's a quarterly zine. The new issue is all about circuses and festivals and fun fairs. So it's all movies that take place at that setting. I wrote a piece about 2 movies where people get murdered on roller coasters and had a blast writing it. So you can check that out at moviejohn.com.
Hell yeah.
Awesome. You can find me on Twitter and Letterboxd at Philadelphia. That's with an F. And I write for cinema76.com. That'll do it. Yeah.
I have one thing I forgot. Somebody hooked me up with some free things, and I want to give her a shout out. If you go onto Instagram, one of Jenna's friends, Mandy Ashley Designs, took our animals and made them into these really like nifty stickers.
Oh my god!
So there's
awesome.
Doris. And then we got a juniper.
That's
awesome. So if that's something that you want, she's looking to move some stickers. So look that shit up.
All right. That's cool.
Awesome.
That's awesome. All right. Well, let's get out of here. My name is Garrett Smith, and I like to movie.
My name is Dan Scully, and I like to movie.
My name is Ryan Silberstein, and I also enjoy movieing.
We all know that you like to movie.
You also enjoy movieing.
Yeah. Because we like
to
movie
the activity of movieing.